शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्ताम् वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम्। श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पाद शङ्करं लोकशङ्करं शङ्करं शङ्कराचार्यं केशवं बादरायणं सूत्रभाष्यकृतौ वन्दे भगवन्तौ पुनः पुनः। ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्ति। And 56 to 59. दुःखेष्वनुद्विग्नमनाः सुखेषु विगतस्पृहः वीतरागभयक्रोधः स्थितधीर्मुनिरुच्यते। यः सर्वत्रानभिस्नेहः तत्तत्प्राप्य शुभाशुभम् नाभिनन्दति न त्वेष्टि तस्य प्रज्ञा प्रतिष्ठिता। यदा संहरते चायं कूर्मोऽङ्गानीव सर्वशः इन्द्रियाणीन्द्रियार्थेभ्यः तस्य प्रज्ञा प्रतिष्ठिता। विषया विनिवर्तन्ते निराहारस्य देहिनः रसवर्जं रसोऽप्यस्य परं दृष्ट्वा निवर्तते। So Arjuna in 54th verse has asked 4 questions regarding a person who has established self-knowledge, who has established sthiti, who has an established nature of being one with who they are as Atman Brahman. So what are the questions Arjuna had asked? First question, regarding such a person, ka bhasha. What is their description? Bhasha has been translated as description. Why is it translated as description? Because there is a saying which is, what is a lakshana, what can be spoken of as a lakshana is called derived from the word bhasha. Another way of saying it is what can be spoken of, described. That is bhasha. So lakshana of one whose whose prajña, knowledge of oneself being Brahman is established. What is their description? That is the first question. Then he also asked, what is the one who has this buddhi, sthita buddhi, knowledge constantly available in their buddhi? Such a one person, kim prabhashet, prabhasheta, what is the way they talk? What is the way they express themselves? Third question, kim asita, how do they sit? Kim vrajeta, how do they walk? All these are sequentially being answered by Bhagwan. 55th verse, he answered, what is the description? Ka bhasha. What is the description of such a person? Characteristic. Lakshan kya hai unke? उनके लक्षण से उन्हें देखा जा सकता है, पहचाना जा सकता है. How are they described? What was the answer? One from whom all desires have gone from the mind. From the mind means उनके चित्त में इच्छा उत्पन्न नहीं है. इच्छा of what nature? प्राप्ति की. किसकी प्राप्ति? सुख के प्राप्ति की. इच्छा of निवारण, दुख के हेतु का निवारण करना, means you work towards dukkha nivritti. All desires can be brought down to these two fundamental desires. You will either work for happiness, any desire, any action you extend to gain happiness, or any desire you act to remove unhappiness. One from whom this process has gone completely. So then the question was coming, how are they then feeling happy? उनका happiness का source क्या है? We identify the source of happiness by the fulfillment of desire. If they don't have desires erupting which propels them to work and conduct and act in life to fulfill, then what is the source of their happiness? Where do they get their happiness from? Are they sad people? Are they lost people? Are they dejected people? Are they long-faced people? Are they dukhi people? What are they? Atmani eva atmana tushtaha. They are tushtaha, santushtaha. They are happy by themselves. They are content by themselves. They are satisfied by themselves, within themselves, by themselves. They have recognized the very source of happiness and they have owned it up. So, Atmani eva atmana tushtaha. So, this is the first question answered. Next question is, Kim prabhasheta? How are they expressing themselves? When they get any kind of a response from the world? How do they react to it? How do they respond back? Kim prabhashet? How are they expressing? जब दुनिया में सब होता है, उनके साथ होता है प्रारब्ध वशः, whatever comes to them, how are they responding to it? How do they respond? When something comes which is not desirable for a jnani purush, for a non-thinking person, for a not a jnani person, avidyavan, जीवात्मा, जब कुछ आता है तो we become unhappy with an unhappy situation. Our mind is instantly responding to what is we see as happiness and what we see as unhappiness. So if we see something as unhappiness, we instantly have dukkham. Mind becomes sad. What is such a person? Sthiraprajñaḥ. When he gets some such situation which is otherwise a source of unhappiness for everyone, for him, his mind, he himself, anudvigna manaha, his mind doesn't get disturbed. His mind doesn't get perturbed. His mind is not vichalit. His mind doesn't have udvigna nahi hota. And then the opposite of it, when something nice happens, something auspicious happens, something desirable happens, something which we look upon as a source of sukham, हमें ऐसा लगता है हमें मिल गया तो हमें आनंद हुआ, हमें खुशी मिल रही है. When we get our desire fulfilled, what happens to him by prarabdha when he gets something good, something nice, something which is looked upon as a source of happiness by everyone? How does he respond? Vigata spruhaha. He doesn't have any longing for it, for that situation or that thing that has become a source of his happiness to last or to repeat itself. Spruha nahi hai. Anand mein wo spruha nahi hai. What was spruha? We saw that thing which makes us feel it should come back. It should never go. If it goes, it should come back. It should last. That sukh ko leke ek spruha hona. It's gone from him. Then what happens? 3 more things he said. From him, because he's already said he has no kamana left, therefore, vitaraga, any kind of a conditional state of mind which is associated with rag, ranjanatmaka, which colors our mind, because of which we do आरोपण, इस वस्तु में मुझे सुख मिलेगा, इस वस्तु में मुझे दुख दिख रहा है. We project on objects and things the source of our happiness, vitaraga. From him, he has no such projection. Because rag is gone, therefore bhaya is gone. Fear of losing something which is a source of your happiness obviously will not be there. And if there was a capacity to deal with it and someone becomes an obstacle in that source of happiness, normal person gets angry. He has no anger for it because there is no rag there. Such a one is a muni. He is a sthitadhi. What more? Everywhere, wherever, anabhisnehaha, he has no excessive, exclusive attachment, sneh, for anything, anyone which is looked upon as a source of shubham, ashubham. So when he gets something which is desirable, na abhinandati, he's not rejoicing and taking it as an end in itself, looking upon it as a end goal. Na dveshti, and he's not also got any dvesh when something which is ashubham which he receives. tasya, his prajña pratishtita. His prajña is established when he has na abhinandati na dveshti. Now for all of us, what are our takeaways? What is our practice? Dukkha anud. This is a description. When all karmas are gone, this is our state which is described when these lakshanas are practiced. What is practiced? When dukkham has come, let my mind be held in a composure, in a equanimity. Let me have the courage, the perseverance to take it as prasadam of my own prarabdha karma, and let it pass off with viveka buddhi that all things that I have received are anyway temporary. Creation, srishti, everything that comes is temporary, anitya hai. Because this is anitya, I can manage my mind, have titiksha, practice it, and let my mind not be overcome or overwhelmed by an unhappy situation. Also, when I receive something which is worthy, let my mind not dwell on its happiness. Let my mind not linger for yearning more of that happiness. Let me not look forward to holding that happiness. Let me have no cheshta to last that happiness. No cheshta. There is anandam that has come. That is also prarabdhavasha. That is also temporary. That is also anitya. And I can keep my mind sama between the two. And raga, let me not develop any kind of an encourage raga. If I encourage raga, I will also encourage dvesh somewhere or the other. Let me not encourage raga dvesh, and therefore bhaya and krodha also can be reduced because rag is not encouraged. Let me not have any excessive fondness or attachment for anything or anyone, and no rejoicing, excessive rejoicing, or no excessive pain, no excessive pain felt, etc. This is so far seen. Now we are seeing the second question. The third question. Kim asita. How does he sit? How does he sit is not a literal question. Obviously, these are not literal questions. How does he express himself in terms of responding to the world? What does he do? And a drishtant came in the 58th verse. Kurmaha angan niva sarvashaha samharate. Just as a tortoise withdraws all its limbs within, the minute it sees something which is detrimental, which is affecting its survival, which is dangerous. The minute the tortoise sees it as something dangerous, he instantly goes under its hard shell. What does such a person do who is a sthiraprajñaḥ? He also moves about in the world, contacts people, but at the same time, he is careful. The minute there is some sort of a The minute there is some sort of a potential, some sort of a potential scene of some sort of a potential scene for some sort of a potential scene for vyarthata. Some interactions are just vyarth. Because the next line is clarifying it. They're futile. They're nishprayojan. They are useless. So what does he do? The minute he sees some such indriya vyavhar, he instantly withdraws. Effortlessly is the point here. For the wise one, for the sthiraprajñaḥ, he effortlessly, like a tortoise, effortlessly, naturally withdraws its limbs, बहुत आसानी से. That is an important point. बहुत आसानी से अपने limbs को संभेर लेता है. स्थितप्रज्ञा बहुत आसानी से अपने इंद्रियों को उन विषयों से छोड़ देता है, अलग करके अपने अंदर वापस ले आता है. Effortlessly can bring the sense organs, indryas. Indriya and sense organ, we have differentiated it very well in Tattvabodh. Sense organs are normally taken as these external organs, eyes, ears, tongue, skin, etc. These are taken as the organs, but these are golakas. They are only in the gross body. Indriya is actually in the manaha, means subtle body, antakarana. इंद्रियों को वो अपने विषयों से हटा लेता है effortlessly. He goes about in the world normally, but certain interactions are so futile. He's certainly not tempted, but certain things he's not, most of the things he's not interested in. In fact, if you take it from the standpoint of the sthiraprajñaḥ, he only operates his indriya to the extent it is necessary to conduct in the world. From the standpoint of a sthiraprajñaḥ, he only operates his indriya, which means वो उनका व्यापार उसके साथ जुड़ता ही तब है जब कुछ काम है. Like example, best example is all those sadhus and sons who live at that peak level, at that high level of ātmavidyā and that sadhana at that level. They will only say 2-3 times a day that they go out for bhiksha, say once a day sometimes. 3 homes is their normal discipline. उसके लिए इंद्रिय व्यवहार तो करना है ना. You have to get up, you have to identify with the body, you have to move out, you have to use your speech, you have to say bhiksham dehi, you have to say something, you have to ask, Mata ji bhiksha de do, kuch to कहना पड़ता है. So how much indriya vyavhar they do with the vishaya? Whatever is received in that little, they are keeping themselves with that as prasad. Utna hi vyavhar. So if someone asks them something, how much do they talk? Utna hi jitna zaruri hai. How much eyes are engaged in? Utna hi jitna zaruri hai. How much ears? Utna hi jahan dalna chahiye. What should the ears be hearing? What should the eyes be seeing? What is the vishay of indriya? Vishay means object. Indriyon ka apna apna vishay kya hai? What is the object respectively of their own indriyas? Eyes ka object kya hai? What is the object of eyes? color and form. How much vyavhar does he do for color and form? He doesn't seek color and form. What about us? If I have to select overcoat, winters have set in. I have to select an overcoat. What is the indriya vyavhar? With an online now available, what is the indriya vyavhar?
We keep searching, and then even when you find something, you'll say कि नहीं इससे भी better मिल सकता है, because it's this thing of your mind to never get satisfied.
Correct. The color, the style, the etc. brand, etc. 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 It goes on, and so much indriya for what? For one vishay. Winters have set in. You say, okay, I need an overcoat. I need something warm. That's something warm that I need. How much vyavhar we engage in. That is one sense organ, one example. Time for our lunch, dinner, breakfast, whatever. Or you're meeting your friends. When you go to a restaurant, the menu, how much does the menu explode? What kind of a correct. One sensory engagement leading to the other, absolutely never ending. Look at the contrast. What does he do? इंद्रियों को उनके विषयों से आसानी से खींच लेता है. हमारा मन अटक जाता है. Oh, I should have got that. Oh, next time. Oh, what is the new style? Oh, new color. Oh, what is this turquoise? What is this sea green? What is this blue? What goes on. What is he? Indriyani indriyarthebhyah, plural, from all the respective sense objects. Eyes from color and form, ears from the sound, new music, new album, new this, new that, new song, new, and then you groove to the new song, and etc. etc. Or waiting for flattering words, nice, pleasant words. When someone says you are so nice, what happens to our body language? Suddenly, oh, you are such a lovely person. I didn't know you're so nice. What happens to the body language? Suddenly, you feel
so happy and so excited.
You feel so happy, excited. There is a sudden burst of self-esteem. You're elated. Suddenly your self-esteem grows. And if someone criticizes you, suddenly you are dipped. You say, no, I've dipped. Indriyani indriyarthebhyah, from their respective sense objects. The tongue from its taste, the skin from its color, the nose from its smell, all of that he effortlessly has withdrawn. What does a sadhana come for us? This Purusha has effortlessly learned to abide in his own self. Why? Because the formation of raga, he has, next verse is going to explain it a little better. He has learned to not develop the rag. So all pravritti following it is also withheld, is also handleable. For us, it goes out of hand. It's uncontrollable because one thought multiplies itself and suddenly it becomes like a huge wave, a force of desire. And now that desire makes our mind restless and we need some fruit out of it. A person who is established in self-gyan, ātmavidyā, has no effort to put in to curtail the indriyas from running after their respective objects. I'll once again bring in the chariot example. It's famous, completely Comes in the Kathopanishad, we saw it in Tattvabodh, I think. 5 sense organs, 5 horses, the path that they move on. घोड़े हैं ये, इंद्रिय घोड़े हैं. कहाँ जाते हैं, किस रास्ते पे वो दौड़ते हैं. That connection, where they move, एक ही डायरेक्शन में जा सकते हैं. They go only towards their objects. घोड़ों की गति है. घोड़ों में एक, they have a speed. They run fast. That's why they're called horses. They are extremely agile and running fast towards their objects. What is the practice that the person does? Slowly, slowly, if one's objective is ātmavidyā, very gradually, one sense organ at a time, one odd time, you learn to weaken the force of these horses. Because who is the Sarathi? Krishna is your Sarathi. Who is the one who is the experiencer of these senses? You as a jiva is experiencer of the senses. As long as you are identified with the sharir, your indriyas will take the mind away. He is going to say this very soon. Forcefully it will take the mind away. It has, the indriyas are so, we have made it so powerful by giving it the force. You know, when you are just born, and even when you are you're a toddler, your eating time is not set, your physiological processes are yet not in a habit. But when you start growing up, and if you have the habit of having your meals at a particular time, by the time you come into teens and a little later, automatically at the same time that you've got used to up and down a little, the mind runs to that particular vyavhar, which is, if your meal time was a particular time, say 8 o'clock, 8:30, 7 o'clock, 7:30, at that time your stomach will say, I'm hungry, even if you're not hungry. It will make you say, I need to eat something. This force that it has, an independent force in itself, slowly withdrawing the force that the indriyas have. That one who's completely established in it, he is sthiraprajñaḥ. For us, gradually withdrawing the force of the indriya to its respective direction that they move in, that's where you say, I can have some reduction first while the knowledge is being learnt or reflected upon. Continuing with Asit. So what is the first part of Asit he's done? Asit means कैसे बैठ जाता है. कैसे बैठता है वो? Not Padmasan, not Vajrasan. No. कैसे बैठता है? इंद्रियों को विड्रॉ करके बैठता है. समेट लेता है. समेटना is the right word. He collects the indriyas back into their source. And what is the source of indriya? As I just said, mind is where the indriyas settle. When he withdraws the indriyas, that means his mind is also now settled. मन तो भागा तब जब इंद्रिया भागी विषयों पे. और इंद्रियों क्यों भागी विषयों पे? Because in avidya we did aropan of vishaya as a source of happiness. We saw the objects as a source of happiness. Because we think the happiness is outside of me and I need to chase it, I need to gain it, I need to seek it, I need to find it. all these verbs that we use with happiness keeps us attached to the body and the senses, and we do not control the movement of the senses thereafterwards. We don't see a harm in them running after sense objects. We don't see the flaw there of how they run after objects, because if I didn't find happiness in one object, I transfer it with hope upon some other object, and I feel I may not have got it here, but I may get it there. And that pravritti, that nature of constantly identifying with the body and the senses and the mind has made us a samsari. That is where we are a samsari. And now in the 59th verse, he is continuing with asita. And what does he say here? Vishaya vinivartante niraharasya dehinaha rasavarjam rasopyasya param drishtva nivartate. Vishaya vinivartante niraharasya dehinaha rasavarjam rasopyasya param drishtva nivartate. A beautiful verse and a pramanic verse. All of them are praman, but this is validifying verse, gives validity to a particular thing that happens. What happens? He says, to a person who has indriyas withdrawn back, whoever has indriyas, sense organs withdraw. Indriya, I'll use the word indriya. जो भी अपने इंद्रियों को अपने अंदर खींच के रख लेता है, such a person, उसके साथ क्या होता है? What happens to them? That person is called niraharasya. Nirahar. Dehinaha. This dehi, who has learnt, who is withdrawing the senses, vinivartante, have called them back. घोड़ों को वापस बुला लिया. They have called the sense horses back. Vishaya vinivartante. What happens from them? The objects vinivartante. The objects turn themselves away. Means objects withdraw. I'll repeat this. Vishaya vinivartante. The objects withdraw. विषय दूर हो जाते हैं, अलग हो जाते हैं इंद्रियों से. किसके लिए होते हैं? निराहारस्य देहिनः. The one who has given up the chase for the objects, who has the senses under their control. इंद्रिय जिसके वश में है, वो the one who is not consuming them. The one who is not consuming the sense pleasures, from them, the sense objects retreat, withdraw. How does that happen? There are two stages of desire. One is the instant pleasure. जब इंद्रियों के साथ व्यवहार होता है तो, as we have just been saying, if it is something that you feel seeing it as happy, then there is happiness there. That vyavhar of indriya that it has, when it contacts, and there is a happiness there for all of us. But when you are learning, as I'm taking the example of a seeker, a sadhak here, when you start withdrawing the senses and separating this object and the indriyon ki attachment, I'll be explaining it a little more. Just have a little concentration and see through, follow through. When there is a rasa for an object, when there is a joy seen, forget the word rasa later. When there is a joy seen in an object or a person, मुझे ये मिल जाए ना तो I'll be the happiest person in the world, supposing. If I get money, I'll be very, very happy. If I get that person in my life, I'll be the happiest in the world. Okay, take that as an example. If I meet such a person, my happiness will have no limit. We say that, right? Now, when you are supposing a student of Vedanta, Bhagavad Gita, and on the path of self-growth, and you say, this is misplaced value. Nobody can give me happiness. What is the Shastra telling me? I am the source of happiness. If I look upon someone else as a source of happiness, then I am deluded. So nobody can give me happiness. Therefore, I have to learn to detach the mind. I may still be in the company, I will enjoy the company, but I'm slowly withdrawing my happiness value onto that object or person. इंद्रियों को उनके विषयों से withdraw किया. A very good example why in our culture fasting is taken. What does fasting do? Say Ekadasi Vrat. There are so many explanations that keep going on, but at a very simple level, even at the level of ahar, food, what are you doing when you're fasting? What have you done? Every day, what is happening to this indriya? Jihva is an indriya. Rasa, in fact, it's called rasa indriya. Jihva is a rasa indriya. You are having a happiness from food every day. Intake of food. Your mind is engaged in food. What do you do on Ekadasi? You say, I am now. Only way in which you can separate the indriya from the object. What is the object for the tongue in this context? What is the object of the tongue? Food. Food must have color, it must have taste, it must have smell, aroma. First thing is, even coffee, before you sip the coffee, you have to, your senses have to be engaged. Why is food so important? Because it involves a lot of senses in it. Now, supposing it's a fasting day. Now, what have you done? Your food and your tongue have got a little disconnect. You're giving it a different kind of food, or you're not, whatever. But there is a little disconnect. That is a practice for withdrawal of indriya. In this context, tongue. You're withdrawing it for a little while. Once you learn to withdraw a particular indriya and hold it back, it has to be done regularly because indriyas have a force. So, done regularly, slowly, you learn the capacity, you gain the capacity, you have the know-how you have the strength. You are not intimidated by the very thought of, hi, what will happen if I don't eat? Hi, what will happen if I don't get the food that I like? Hi, what will happen to me? That those thoughts that udvigna, जो हमारे मन को उद्विग्न कर देते हैं, विषय भोग ना होते हुए, slowly the mind begins to gain confidence within itself. You have to educate the mind, you have to train the mind to sit silent, let it have the experience, and when it sees that by withdrawal of the sense perception, sense engagement, it has actually gained strength. It gains strength. It gains more energy. It gains more energy. It gains, the indriya becomes weaker, but the mind becomes stronger in the positive sense. अंतःकरण आपका more determined हो जाता है, because you have now begun to see that the indriya can be separated from its vishay. Correct point. Very good point. I'll just repeat that. So, the minute the indriya is withdrawn, what happens to the food there? What happens to the object? He says, slowly the object withdraws from your environment. वो खींचता नहीं है. We all know, where does our attention go? When you go to a mall, where does your attention go? When you go anywhere, where does your attention go? Where your specific desires are. There is a shelf of all kinds of objects there. Where does your eye go? Only on the things that you want. इच्छा से जुड़ी हुई है. इंद्रिय की व्यवहार, इंद्रिय का एक, what is that thing called? They are like I gave the example last week, that hot water on the tawa, water on the hot tawa. They're always sprightly, they're always excited, they're always invigorated. They're always looking for, they're restless. अपने आप से नहीं, but by habit they have become so used to being in contact with the object. If you're used to talking to someone on the phone every day, most of us have one person that we are used to talking every day. If you're used to talking to a person every day, what happens if you miss talking 2-3 days? इंद्रिय अंदर से व्याकुल होती है. That's what you call as missing. Instantly your hands move to the phone, or you're wondering, you're waiting, your mind is disturbed. Why has the phone not come? All that starts to happen. Now, विषय withdraw करते हैं. For whom? For niraharasya de, the one who refuses to take ahar of that indriya vyapar, who refuses to nourish himself with the indriya vyavahar. Such a one, his indriyas withdrawn, the objects will also withdraw. So the mind is no longer running. But what happens at a subtle level? This was at the grosser level. This was at the immediate pratyaksha. But what happens really deep within the mind? Can you say that this person is a sthiraprajñaḥ? Here, Apurva Paksha comes up, kind of. he says, such niraharasya. So even a sick person he also doesn't like to engage in indriyas. If your stomach is upset, does your mind go to food? No. So जो निराहार है वो अवस्था, तो it is available to a sick person. It is available even to an old person. When you grow old, and if you love to travel, you love to go on trips, but by the time you say your body aches have started and your limbs are not working and there are pain in your knees and etc., and the strength in the muscles is weakening, then even if you want to go, what does your mind and your body say? No, I don't think so. So even an old person seems to be withdrawing from the indriyas. A great tapasvi, such a tapasvi like you have in Himalayas, you see once in a while, you get these pictures who stayed even in this cold weather. They stay in the cave only, and the interviews going on with such tapasvis who have become absolutely lean and, but matted hair, and such tapasvis also, they are not engaging in sense engagements. Are they sthiraprajñaḥ? In other words, if the Vishaya has withdrawn, that sthiti of Vishaya withdrawn seems to be available in other conditions also, like old age, sickness, and severe form of tapasya. Bodily tapasya, not sattvic tapasya, but tamasic tapasya. So when you are doing heedless tapasya, zid pakad ke doing something, from them also the Vishaya is withdrawn. Is that a state of sthiraprajñaḥ? To answer that is the second line. Rasa varjam rasaha api asya. For a person of sthiraprajñaḥ, even the rasaha is gone. When does it gone? When is it gone? Param drishtva nivartate. It goes away. The rasa itself goes away on seeing the param. Param is Paramatma, here is ātmavidyā. When you are recognizing the ātmavidyā, then rasa varjam rasaha api asya. This sthiraprajñas param drishtva, on seeing ātmavidyā, on recognizing oneself as Brahman, rasaha nivartate. The rasa for the object also goes, but not for the one who is a nirahara. Means the rasa remains within, and that rasa in the mind will come up again supposing when your health restores, what happens again? Your mind again goes to food. So ras fir ut ke aa jayega, and it will become a desire again. In fact, that is what is keeping us in the cycle. So what is really there is, the cycle that really happens is, we call them vasanas, if it is for sense indulgences. Call them samskars when they are introduced by the Shastra. There are impressions. Ras hai andar. Those impressions within the antakaranam, on a conducive environment, when the environment is conducive, they rise up as desires. Kamna banti hai. वो वासना, वो संस्कार उठ के at the right environment becomes a kamna, becomes a desire. Kamna means I want it. Only when I want it will I be happy. वो जो कामना बनती है, that kamna further desire manifests itself. Ichha, call it as, now I really, really want it. I will work for it. So at the level of desire and identifying it to work for it, ichha banti hai. And then you work to fulfill the ichha. Then what happens? Bhog banta hai. Bhog means now you will have it or not have it, whatever the cycle is. Once there is indriya bhog, for a little while the indriya gets quietened. Just as when there is hunger, you eat, for a little while you are quietened. But because there was a bhog, it goes and strengthens your samskar or your vasana all over again. Bhog ka impression. I am enjoying it. I liked it. That conclusion that I liked it, I enjoyed it, strengthens your samskar, your vasana all over again. And that again puts you back in the cycle. What is the danger of the cycle? Is that cycle clear? Have I been able to convey it? What is the danger of that cycle?
That you will
keeps you in sansar.
That desires will keep coming and you will keep indulging yourself in those desires, and the sanskars will get strengthened. So sansar will never end for you.
Correct. So your indriya will only make you run, keep you in the chase of it. But what happens to the rasa if as long as the rasa is there? So when will the rasa go?
Once
Param
you have
drishtva.
strengthened ātmavidyā, once you are established in ātmavidyā, तो वो अपने आप चला जाएगा.
Correct. वो dissolve हो जाएगा. क्यों हो जाएगा? What is it? अपने आप चला जाएगा is correct, but why?
Because we have seen the param.
संसार हैप्पीनेस देगा. You will realize कि संसार हैप्पी कर ही नहीं सकता. आपको हैप्पीनेस मिल नहीं सकती उधर से.
Correct. And
so the इच्छा will die. मतलब इच्छा आएगी ही नहीं.
You will realize that you yourself are Ananda, और ये सब छोटी चीज, ये सब temporary आनंद है. You will realize permanent Ananda.
Absolutely. So, other way of saying it, in first level is the vairagya, correct? And the second thing is that, yes, the world anyway cannot be a source of happiness, but the important thing is, Atma itself is remember where there is a huge body of water, what is the point of a lake? Samplutodake. Wherever the water is gushing, which is that verse before we've done, when there is a whole lot of water available, then
I crave for lake.
Exactly.
I crave for lake. Yeah.
Where will that happiness, that small happiness, come? Somewhere it is here, I don't know. Okay, I think I've covered it, but there is somewhere it is mentioned that little happiness of this object, he uses a specific word. Small fits in the large, absolutely. That little is no longer happiness. So the rasa also goes away. 46 verse. Okay, great. So the rasa is also gone. For whom? Only when param drishtva nivartate. Not before that. Therefore, tasma. Shankara gives a beautiful conclusion. Tasma. Therefore, what should a person do for ātmavidyā? He says, samyak darshana ātmikayaha prajñāyaha sthiryam kartavyam iti. Tasma, therefore, कर्तव्यम स्थैर्यम प्रज्ञायाः. आत्मविद्या प्रज्ञा उसको स्थैर्य करने का कर्तव्य. You should be doing it. What? Make your prajna sthairya. Which prajna? Samyak darshana. Samyak darshan is another word for ātmavidyā. That ātmavidyā, which is samyak darshan, comprehensive, one, universal, all inclusive. Therefore, your prayatna should be to establish in ātmavidyā and not just leave it at the level of indriya nigraha. That conclusion is very important, because otherwise, what are we taking away as practice? Indriya nigraha is what we are taking as practice, which is important, which he's going to talk of later. But here, because the rasa will still stay even when the objects withdraw. Therefore, what will a wise sadhak be engaged in? What should you attempt at? Indriya nigraha should not be taken as an end in itself. Having gained some indriya nigraha, your effort should be to make the prajna sthairya. The first verses of 2nd chapter, 12 to 28, I am Atma. I am Ajaha, Amaraha, Tashvataha. All Atma Prakarnam, that through Atma and Atma Viveka, keep it as your लक्ष्य. उसमें स्थिरता पाने का प्रयत्न करो. Otherwise, human life, that is so precious, where you can achieve this, will be dissipated chasing things which have no prayojan in them, which give you nothing. Okay? Think conveyed. So, Vishaya Vinivartante Niraharasya Dehinaha. When you do not run after the objects recede. आपको आगे आके tempt नहीं करते, परेशान नहीं करते. Your mind thereafterwards remains with you, stays with you. But the rasa for them will not go away. The rasa will stay. There was a Swami, I believe, when he was a Vedanta Acharya, and when he was dying, his students asked him, "Tell us something which is the whole sar of your life. आपके पूरे जीवन को आपने, whatever you निचोड़ के, means give us a teaching behind for us for the entire life that you have learned and gained and lived." And he composes a verse. I don't have it here at the moment, and I don't remember the verse in quotation, but the tatparyam of the verse was, he says, this body with holes is equivalent to a clay pot, mitti ka ghada. And what is that conch? Dakshinavarti conch? A conch which is very, very auspicious. I think it's Dakshinavarti conch, called. which is equivalent to all the words are going to, like a kamadhenu, which is equivalent to, when you worship it, it's equivalent to a kamadhenu. It is said to fulfill all your desires if you worship that conch. It is so he says, I had such a conch with me. I have such a conch, which means it can fulfill all my desires. It can give me everything. But what did I do with that conch? He says, this mitti ka ghada that I have, which would keep having holes in it, that conch I would rub, make a paste of, and I would block that hole of that ghada, use the conch to block the hole of the ghada, of the pot. Every time there was a hole, I used the conch to block the hole, to close the hole. And I wasted my precious conch like that. I rubbed it so much that I destroyed the conch, and all that it could do was, it only closed the holes of this pot. I would use it for water and it would leak away. Therefore, I would again use that, and all my life I have only used the conch for that. So the parallel was, he was telling his students, it was not actually for his own self, it was given as a drishtant, composed to inspire the student to say that this precious body with these 9 holes, indriya, jahan se golak, jahan se vishayon ko le jate hain, these holes, my shankh, shankh, I am using it only for closing this. Means I have wasted my life not gaining the highest purusharth that this body could have given me, which is pursue moksha. इंद्रियों को रोकने में ही जिंदगी निकल गई, either following it or controlling it. Rag dvesh not to form, ahankar not to live with, dakshinavarti, right? Dakshinavarti? Shank. I think so. It's dakshinavarti, Shank. I think it is Dakshin, because Dakshin is south, no? My Hindi is terrible in this. Held from the right side. So that's why it's called Dakshinavarti. You hold it from that. It's supposed to be more auspicious or something like that.
Hanji, it's Dakshinavarti Shankh.
Anna? Yeah,
Hanji.
okay. Yeah. So holding it on the right side, right? So you hold it on the, great. Okay.
Naturally, it's called naturally right-handed, Dakshinavarti Shankh.
Right. Right-handed. Correct. Yes, our Google helps, right? So good. Thank you for reminding Dakshinavarti. Now, it's fascinating that particular conch is said to be a fulfiller of all desires if you worship it. It's said to be fulfilling desires. And however I used it, which means this life is capable of giving us moksha. But how we use it away, fritter it away in very small things of life. Tasmat, therefore, Shankara is inspiring all of us. Therefore, samyak darshana ātmikayaha, by your own efforts, prajñayaha sthiryam kartavyam. Your effort should be for the highest. प्रज्ञा को स्थैर्य करो, उसके लिए then इंद्रिय का निग्रह. Okay? And then he says again in the next verse, before that there was this. Okay. So rasa word here, just an incidental point because it will come later on. The rasa word here is taken as ragaha. Uska rag nahi jata andar se. So that sanskar, that vasana is the rag. It does not go away. How will that rag go? That rag only goes with brahmavidyā. Therefore, put effort for brahmavidyā. Then next verse. Yatato hyapi kaunteya purushasya vipaschitaha indriyāni pramathini haranti prasabham manaha. He says, because you must aim for samyak darshan, therefore, for that, you start from where? He says, you start, if you are a desirer of sthiraprajñaḥ, ādau indriyāni svavashe sthiraprajñaḥ. Apne control your svavashe, bring them under your control. Bring your senses, indriyas, under your control. How many indriyas do we have?
We have karma indriyas and we have jnana indriyas.
Excellent. I was hoping. Yes, very good. So we have karma indriyas and jnana indriyas. All the indriyas, are not just jnana indriyas that you have to control. Karma indriya also. Bringing your indriyas svavashaha, apne vash mein, and let them sit there. Thapayitva, bring them back to their own source. If you do not have indriyas under your control, means you are approaching brahmavidyā just at the level of knowledge. Jnana hai na? So it is also extremely inspiring to know about oneself. But that knowledge, devoid of self-discipline, self-control, what will happen to such a person? उसमें दोष क्या है? तद अवस्थापने दोषम आहा. That dosham is now being spoken of in the 60th verse. That if you do not have your senses under control, and you on one hand you are saying, I am aspiring for ātmavidyā. I only want moksha. I only want moksha. I only want moksha. But when you go to the mall, you're running from one store to another store. But aspiration is not wrong. Running is also not wrong. What is to be made, how will you be accomplished in your desire to know? How will you be accomplished in your own desire for moksha? How will you accomplish that? He says, इंद्रियों को अपने विषयों से पहले अलग करो. अगर नहीं करोगे, तो what will happen? यततः हि अपि कौन्तेय. पुरुषस्य विपश्चितः. Even for the one who's striving. O Kaunteya, For the one who is a learned person, Viveki. Shankara says Medhavinaha. He's a Medhavi. Medhavi means one who holds the knowledge in their buddhi. They hold the knowledge in their memory. They are able to make connections forward and backward, and therefore buddhi mein gyan hold kar lete hain. The ones who can remember even what they have learned. Vipaschitaha, the ones who know. Yatataha hi api, even with effort, when they put in the effort. Prayatnam kurvataha, prayatnam karte hue, kurvataha, karte hue. Yatataha, effort, dalte hue. O kaunteya, indriyani pramathini. These senses forcibly haranti, take away. Prasabham manaha, the mind which is otherwise inspired and bright under the available knowledge of a sadhak. If your senses are weak, sense organs are, means indriyas are weak, it will take away the mind, an awakened mind, let's put it, a chitta shuddha, no, chitta shuddha is the wrong word, available mind, bright mind, which has knowledge held. Such a mind is also taken away forcibly. Means आपकी प्रज्ञा धैर्य नहीं रह पाएगी. क्यों नहीं? What is a leak? What is that pot? Leak, hole in the pot. Indriya is powerful. Means you have not controlled it. It's not brought under your will. Swavashe nahi hui. Because it's not swavashe, even when you have knowledge, you have learnt up to Brahma Sutra, and you are able to connect all verses, you are able to know what is ātmavidyā, you know what is chitta shuddhi, you know the process, you know, very soon you will know everything. But why is the prajña not established? Because the leak is in the indriya. Indriya hi man ko, prasabham manaha, the one that is viveka vijnana yukta manaha. Shankara says viveka vijnana yukta manaha, prasabham manaha, which is already now clear. Sanshay rahit man. Man bhi inspired hai, it is buddhi clear hai, and you are putting effort for prajña sthirya. But your weak point was indriyas, one or two indriyas are weak. Those indriyas will be taking away such a mind also. Therefore, yataha, tasmat, therefore, such a yataha, effort. Further, he is going to say in the 61st verse, Tani sarvani sanyamya. Therefore, all of them, sarvani sanyamya, yukta asita matparaha. Be resolved in yourself. And he says, matparaha, taking if you're pursuing Brahmavidya, taking Brahman as supreme, as the highest goal, as you yourself. But Krishna is now talking to Arjuna. Therefore, Krishna is saying, I am that Brahman. Take me as supreme. Take me as Brahman. Mat paraha. Keep your senses integrated, united by the thought that I am the supreme. Sit means be quiet. Vashehi yasya indriyani. Whosever indriyas are under their own vash, under their control. Whose indriyas are under their control, tasya prajña pratishtita. जिसकी इंद्रिया उसके वश में है, उसकी प्रज्ञा प्रतिष्ठित है. So 60th and 61st verse, doing it together, and there are one or 2 points that I will retake because this is important. Reinforce it once more. Importance of indriya nigraha. In the sadhana chatushtayam, what was indriya nigraha called? What is that quality?
Uparati.
Uparati is mind control.
Shama and Dama. Dama.
Correct. Dama. Sense control. Dama. And mind control, then Shama. Uparama, when you are able to hold it back to its own source. Withdrawing. Capacity, like the tortoise here. You are able to withdraw. Your capacity to withdraw. Therefore, start with Indriya Nigraha. And therefore, now just a small point to be added. Why all our religious lifestyle came down to Indriya Nigraha. Once, supposing an example of Ekadasi Vratam, if you have done the Indriya Nigraha over there, food is the weakest point for almost anyone and everyone. Sanctioned, legitimate desire fulfillment source, if it is, once there is some Nigraha, this mind you direct to your spiritual sadhana. That is the whole purpose of a religious life. यहाँ से खींच के इंद्रियों को अपने विषयों से खींचने का आदत बनाना, and it will take some time because our vasana, our strength of force of life is so strong. Our desires are so powerful that we cannot even deal, even when those who do Navratri 9 days. Very interesting this time I saw. 9 days Navratri, 10th day there was a post back to our, what was it? It was back to our chicken feet, back to our non-veg food, back to our, there was excitement there. Back to 9 days you kept a fast, did not, resisted from non-veg, resisted from whatever, ate one time. 10th day, indriyas are rushing towards it. It's very fascinating. If you are used to staying in the world and you take a retreat for a little while, first 2, 3 days, 4 days, back to school. First 2, 3, 4 days, your mind will go to this television, what you are missing, the serial you're watching, or something else. And if you have gone for a long time, sometimes the mind takes a few days and weeks unless it's very prepared. The younger you are, more difficult it is. It just stays in its own momentum. The mind stays in a momentum. And why the whole Vedic culture was also a religious culture, is also a religious culture. Because religion is not how we see everything else. how we see gods like that. No, this is here. My indriyas, if they get strong enough, they will take away my willpower, they will take away my strength, they will take away my discernment, my judgment to decide what is right and wrong in my life, what I should choose and not choose, what I should do and not do, when I should do, how much should I do, how much should I run after, what I need in life, what do I need in life. So many things, everything in life has to be chosen, decided. If my indriyas are strong, they make me a vulnerable person. They make me a helpless person. What has happened to Arjuna? His mind has completely taken havoc because his eyes saw not warriors, but his eyes saw Sneha Patra. Bhishma and Drona, Bhishma in particular, was his Sneha Patra. He received sneh from there. He received affection from there. And the minute his eyes have darshan of such a sight, his mind is taken away and all the buddhi was confused. That's how he said, I am now confused. I do not know what is to be done. Those verses of the first chapter. Therefore, who becomes a seeker of the knowledge? Forget seeker. Even if you want a real good life, why is Bhagavad Gita recommended as a study? This is telling us the importance of indriya control and what has happened even in upbringing of children today. Even if parent wants to put a little discipline to the child, what has happened? In our generation, if our parents hadn't slapped us a few times, they were called bad parents. They had to hear a lot that they did not bring up their child well enough. Today, if you are to do that to your child, you cannot enforce on the child, because the philosophy is of today's parenting world is you have to let your child express their own likes and dislikes. Let them live their likes and dislikes. Shastra viruddha completely. A child is like any animal. Even your pet, when you train the pet. Indriyon ka first lesson. That's why it's a very intelligent parent who can handle the indriyas. The upbringing has an important role is how do you allow the child to develop a good, right sense of sense pleasures. They must have the right sense of sense pleasure. If they don't have the right sense of sense pleasure, indulgence of sense pleasure, you can never be a spiritually growing person. You cannot even be a strong human. You cannot be a fully available human. Available human. Forget about spiritual development. So, tasmat, therefore, a few more points which we'll take up. More important, today's class, essential is to reflect upon the importance of indriya nigraha. Karam Yoga is entirely in the sense. Do you see the shift of topic? Do you recognize what has happened? In Karam Yoga also he took us to sthiraprajñaḥ. Because he took us to sthiraprajñaḥ through Karam Yoga, Chitta Shuddhi, Jnana Yogyata, Jnana Prapti, Jnana Sthiryam, sthiraprajñaḥ. Now sthiraprajñaḥ's description here, such a person has no desire, etc. And such a person is now being spoken, described. उसके इंद्रियों का क्या हाल है, उसके मन का क्या चलता है, etc. And that is our practice. What here, indriyas have to be withdrawn. And when they become effortlessly available to you, Jnana sthairyam will become possible. Otherwise, you may hold the clarity of thought, but there will be no growth corresponding accordingly. The inner growth that has to correspond with your development of perception, that inner growth will be missing. महात्मा कौन बनते हैं? ज्ञान सब प्राप्त कर लेते हैं, महात्मा कौन बनता है? Who has put in this? More next class. Om Sarvesham Swastirбhavatu, Sarvesham Shantirbhavatu, Sarvesham Purnam Bhavatu, Sarvesham Mangalam Bhavatu, Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinah, Sarve Santu Niramaya, Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu, Ma kaschit dukha bhag bhavet. Om swasti prajabhyaः paripalayantam nyayena margena mahim mahisha. Go brahmanebhyah shubhamastu nityam lokas samastas sukhino bhavantu kale varshatu parjanyah पृथ्वी सस्यशालिनी देशोऽयं क्षोभरहितः ब्राह्मणाः सन्तु निर्भयाः ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः।